All right, everyone, let's talk about taking some rare champions that you are absolutely not going to regret up to level 60 or 6-star. Now, there might be a few reasons why you want to do this. The obvious one, of course, is that when you take a look at drop rates, you will see that you are going to mostly end up getting rares from Ancient Shards with a 91.5% drop chance, whereas Epics and Legendaries are going to be at an 8% and a pretty low 0.5% for Legendaries. So, this is the thing too, is when people say this Epic is really good, this Legendary is really good, they're probably right, but it can be very difficult in order to get that one Epic or that one Legendary that you really want to get, whereas rares are going to be something that if you play the game, even if you're free to play, over time you're probably going to get most of the rares unless you get really, really unlucky. Maybe the exception might be a couple of the void rares, but generally speaking, you will be able to eventually build the rares that you want to. Another thing too is you do get rares from mystery shards, unlike epics and legendaries, which you cannot get from mystery shards. And the game throws out these mystery shards like candy. If you've been playing for a while, you probably have quite a few of these saved up, and you'll just be doing so many mystery shard summons for fodder in order to rank up your champions that you're eventually going to end up getting a bunch of rares anyway. Even though the drop chance is only 1.4%, with the amount of mystery shards that you summon, you'll still get quite a few rares from them. Another reason, of course, is the skill books. This is huge, and when it comes to skill books in Raid Shadow Legends, rare skill books are going to be a lot more common. You're going to come by them much more frequently than you will when it comes to epic and legendary books. So these skill books, I've been playing the game since April, and I have booked a few champions, but this is a lot of saving up of skill books from a bunch of the free events and rewards that you have in Raid Shadow Legends. So you can see, generally speaking, you're going to get a lot more rare skill books than epics and legendaries. So that's another great thing about taking a rare to level 60 is you will have much more access to the skill books and the resources to get their skills to max level, which can make a champion much, much more powerful than having their skills unleveled. So that's just a couple of the reasons. There are plenty of fantastic rares in Raid Shadow Legends that are going to be better than epics, and even in some situations better than legendaries. And let's go through a list of 5 of those today. Now, this is just going to be a list of 5 that I came up with. I'm sure there are plenty more that you can take to level 60 and feel good about it. But let's start off, and I wanted to start off talking about one of the starter champions, because you're actually going to get the choice to pick from one of these champions for free when you start the game. Now, there are 4 of them. You have Gaelic, you have Elhine, which is the archer. Gaelic is the orc, which is going to be the guy that you see in a lot of the commercials and ads for Raid Shadow Legends. Elhine, you have Athel, and you have Cael. Now, they're all reasonably good. I would say out of the 4 starter champions, though, the strongest one overall is probably going to be Cael, and this is definitely a champion that you will not regret taking to level 60. Cael is absolutely fantastic for a starter. He has got a lot of stuff that he can bring to the table, and again, because he is a rare, you are going to eventually be able to skill book him and get his skills maxed out a lot easier than an epic or legendary. You'll be able to possibly find multiple copies of him, which you can also use to boost the skills. And he's a champion that you actually have the choice of getting for free if you chose him as your starter. If you didn't, don't worry, you'll end up coming across him again in the future, but he is really, really good. So his first skill, Dark Bolt, attacks one enemy, has an 80% chance of placing a 2.5% poison debuff for 2 turns. So that's great. It comes with a poison, which is going to really mostly come in handy when it comes to the clan boss. So that is absolutely fantastic. Just a regular, plain old skill 1, but because it does have that poison attached to it on the auto attack, that is going to contribute quite a bit of damage when it comes to things like the clan boss. Then you have the skill 2, which is actually pretty good for a skill 2. It is an AoE, attacks all enemies, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit, fills the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each enemy killed. So this is a fantastic skill when it comes to farming and clearing. This is another reason why Cael is a fantastic rare to bring to level 60, is because not only can he bring a lot to the table when it comes to the clan boss by having a poison on his basic attack, but he has a really good AoE farming skill as well. Having that turn meter fill when it comes to killing monsters is going to mean that if you build this champion and build the skill properly, if you're actually having it one shot and kill monsters, he can end up actually clearing waves really, really quickly. And you can actually build your Cael to farm the brutal 12-3 stage or 12-6, depending if you want silver or experience. You can actually build your Cael in order to farm this pretty quickly. There are people who are able to get their Cael to around 20 seconds or so, which is pretty respectable for a rare champion. So his skill 2 is pretty darn good for that. Then you have his skill 3, which is going to be another poison, attacks 4 times at random, has a 40% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. So another skill that is going to dish out several attacks, and it has that poison debuff as well. So another skill that is going to contribute a good amount of damage, as well as contribute quite a bit to the clan boss. Then you have his aura, increases HP in all battles by 15%. Pretty basic, but if you don't have a champion with an aura, it's still going to come in handy. And overall, he is just a fantastic champion, probably the best starter. If you build it properly with a lot of damage, a lot of crit, he can end up clearing waves pretty quickly. And overall, for a starter, he is just a champion that is going to bring a lot to the table. There's not just one situation where he's going to be good. He's good for the clan boss. He's good for campaign farming. He's decent in dungeons. So overall, for a rare, very, very solid champion. Definitely won't regret taking him to level 60. Don't get discouraged as well. This is something that I did, is when I was actually playing and building Cael, it felt like he was pretty weak to me, but I realized that a lot of the gear that I was using on him wasn't really that good. So if your Cael doesn't seem to be performing very well when it comes to damage and clearing waves and whatnot, it's probably the gear. The champion himself is very strong, and you can actually build him to do a ton of damage. So don't be discouraged if your Cael is not that strong yet. You just probably need to optimize the gear setup a little bit. So that is going to be number 1. Now, number 2, this is definitely a champion that you've probably heard more than once. Probably one of the, if not the best rares in the game. Something that you are absolutely going to want to build to level 60 if you don't have a similar champion. And he just brings so much to the table when it comes to buffs and overall utility. That is, of course, going to be Apothecary. Don't get confused with Magus. There's another champion that looks very, very similar to Apothecary. That's Magus. That is not the champion that you want to bring to level 60. Magus, unfortunately, is not that great, but Apothecary is one of the best, I would say, just overall one of the best champions in the game. Even for a rare, Apothecary is really, at the minimum, an epic quality champion, and I would say probably between epic and legendary tier. Just super, super insanely good, and for a rare, absolutely crazy. Now, the biggest thing that Apothecary is going to bring to the table is going to be the skill 3, which, as you can see, when it is ascended, place a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns and fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. And I have mine booked once because I've just gotten so many copies of him by now. I've been using my copies to skill book, but you can actually bring this down to a 3-turn cooldown. So you have a full team speed buff on all allies for 2 turns with a 3-turn cooldown. So approximately a 2 out of 3 times or 66% uptime. Not exactly how it works, but that's just an approximate. Plus, every time that he actually uses this buff, it's also going to boost the turn meter of your entire team by 15%. So absolutely crazy utility. Fantastic skill 3. One of the best skill 3s in the game. Really, really good. Now, when it comes to his other skills, he's got a very, very solid A1. His auto attack attacks 3 times at random. The more attacks on a auto attack, generally speaking, the better for those masteries when it comes to Giant Slayer. So very good A1. And he also has a pretty solid heal as well. Heals a target ally by 35% HP. This heal can be critical, so that's another thing as well. It can end up being a pretty big heal on a 2-turn cooldown. Overall, absolutely fantastic utility, especially with the skill 3. 21% allied defense, aura in dungeons as well. Not really the biggest thing that he brings to the table. It really is this combination of having an insane skill 3 on a rare champion, having a very solid heal, and also just a very solid skill 1. One of the best champions in the game, even though he is a rare. Absolutely will not regret taking him to level 60. So that is going to be number 2. Now we are going to move on to champions that might be a little bit more difficult to get, because so far we had Cael, which was a starter, and he's also a magic champion, so you can get him from Ancient Shards. Apothecary is also a magic champion, so you can get him from Ancient Shards. So I want to talk about Void champions now. They are still rare, but because they are Void champions, they're going to be a little bit more difficult to get than the champions that we've talked about so far. So number 3 is going to be Coldheart, another champion that you've probably heard of more than once at this point, especially if you've been playing for a while. And like Apothecary, Coldheart is just overall, I would say, one of the best champions in the game. Even though she is a rare, not even an epic, not even a legendary, still one of the best champions in the game. Just bringing so much to the table when it comes to burst damage potential. If you have the right gear, if you have a lot of crit damage, you can actually build Coldheart extremely well for Spider because of this third skill, where you can end up doing well over 1,000,000 damage with just a single skill. Super fantastic champion. So let's take a look at the skills. The auto attack right off the bat attacks 4 times at random. Again, the more attacks that you have on the auto attack, generally speaking, the better. Because of Giant Slayer, you're going to be able to get more procs, do more damage to the clan boss. So very good auto attack. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. Just a great, very solid auto attack in general. Skill number 2 attacks all enemies, so this is going to be the AoE, which you can bring down to a 3-turn cooldown with skill books. Has a 30% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy debuff for 1 turn. Places a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if the target is under a heal reduction debuff. And remember, the skill 1 was what brings the heal reduction to the table, so it's not like you need a completely different champion with heal reduction in order to fully benefit from the second skill, because you have that from the auto attack. So this skill, AoE, comes with the possibility of a poison. Again, going to be fantastic and brings stuff to the table when it comes to the clan boss. And finally, you have the third skill, which is why Coldheart is so fantastic for a rare. If you build this skill properly, it can do insane damage to the Spider. Attacks 1 enemy, fully depletes the turn meter. That is an insane utility aspect to the skill as well. Has an extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit, so if you want to, you don't even have to bring your Coldheart to 100% crit damage, or sorry, 100% crit chance. You can leave it at around 70%, and this skill should still crit all the time. So that's another thing when it comes to gearing up. Damage increases according to enemy max HP, which is a very good scaler when it comes to skills, because not only is she going to scale off of the attack, and of course the attack for the other skills, but it's going to do a ton more damage if you are attacking enemies that have a lot of HP. Clan boss is an example, but also things like if you're doing really high level spider dungeons, if you apply the proper debuffs and you apply the proper buffs to your team before activating the skill, it can do absurd amounts of damage. I'm talking well over 1,000,000. So for a rare champion, Coldheart brings a lot to the table. Another great champion you can use for the clan boss. Definitely Spider is probably the thing that people use Coldheart the most for. In fact, because she is a rare, not really, still more difficult to get than certain rares like Apothecary and Cael, but still a rare. So eventually, if you are somebody who plays the game for a while, you might get several copies of Coldheart, and people will actually build several Coldhearts for doing high level Spider dungeons, because she is that good, and there really aren't too many other champions that have the abilities to hit 1,000,000 plus with a skill like this. So one of the best rares in the game. Now the next champion that I want to talk about is actually one that people might not really mention too much. Now he is a champion similar to this guy, and it is going to be a void champion again, and that is going to be this guy right here, Felhound. Now, the other champion that is going to be similar to this guy is going to be Bellower. This is going to be your campaign farmer, and Felhound is actually, I believe, technically has the potential to be the best campaign farmer in the game because of this skill right here. Attacks all enemies, has a 25% chance of placing a decreased speed buff. It's really just this AoE attack that scales off of defense and attack, and because the animation is quicker than Bellower's animation, you can actually end up clearing Brutal Campaign Stage 12-3. You can actually end up clearing it even quicker than with a Bellower. I think Bellower can do something like 7 or 8 seconds. Felhound can actually do a second or two quicker because of the animation speed. But overall, the reason why this champion is in the list is because it is a rare that has an AoE skill 1, which means it doesn't have a cooldown, which means you can reliably use it for campaign farming. And even though it might seem weak at first glance, if you build this champion properly with the right gear setup, you can end up one-shotting all the waves in the Brutal Campaign and end up farming it in just a few seconds. Another comparison champion, once again, is going to be Bellower. Very, very similar. He has an AoE skill 1, so an AoE auto attack. is going to accomplish pretty much the same goal. The only difference is, first of all, I don't actually have a Bellower yet, so I wasn't able to really showcase it very well. And the other reason is this guy is technically even a little bit better because his animation is quicker. You can actually end up clearing the campaign stages a little bit quicker. Not a lot quicker, it's not really a huge deal, but if you're going for perfect min-maxing optimization, you're actually going to want to pick Felhound over Bellower for that reason. So this is kind of the thing that really is the big spotlight. His other skills, you know, they're okay, I guess. Place a continuous heal buff and a reflect damage buff on all allies. Maybe there's some situations where that might come in handy. Place a block damage buff on an ally, but it's only on one ally. It's not the entire team. He's got a defense for faction crypts. It's really just the skill 1 and the campaign clearing capacity that Felhound brings to the table. And finally, I want to talk about a champion that is actually new to, kind of new to the table. I mentioned this in the video yesterday, which is actually why you don't want to fuse for Alika, and is one of the required champions. It's going to be this one right here, this Void champion, Reliquary Tender. And this is actually a rare champion that I am looking forward to bringing to level 60 and 6-star because of the skill 2. So absolutely fantastic champion for a rare, another Void rare. But the good news about Reliquary Tender is depending on when you guys are watching this video, hopefully sooner rather than later, because there is a champion chase tournament where if you get 750 points, you can end up getting this champion for free. So you don't have to rely on RNG or anything like that. And the main reason why Reliquary Tender is going to be so good is because of the second skill right here. Removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a 15% continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns. You can actually bring this down with skill books to a 3-turn cooldown, so you have a full team debuff removal and a 15% continuous heal buff on your entire team with a 3-turn cooldown on a rare champion. This skill is insane, and to have it on a rare champion is absolutely phenomenal. So definitely a champion that I am looking forward to taking to level 60, and probably just because of this skill alone is going to be one of the best rare champions in the game. Has the A1 with a debuff. It's not a super strong debuff, but it is still a debuff and an auto attack, which is nice. And the third skill is revives an ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30%. So situational, not terrible. It's not like a completely wasted skill. And the auto attack, it's not like it's as bad as it could be because it does have that added debuff on it. But the big thing that really makes this champion shine is that insanely crazy skill 2. Wow. Still kind of in shock at how good this is on a rare. So anyway, that is going to be my list of 5 champions. Like I said at the start, there are plenty of other champions that are going to be really good and you absolutely won't regret taking to level 60. But this was just kind of my list, 5 champions at a glance you absolutely will not regret taking to level 60. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully this was able to help you out. If you guys did enjoy this video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much to all of you guys who have subscribed recently. Really do appreciate everyone. Tons of support lately, so thank you once again. And of course, if you want to drop a quick like, that helps out as well. So thank you again, everyone, for watching. Hope this helped out. More videos like this coming in the future. And until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.